The desert stretched endlessly under the bright sun. Waves of golden sand shifted with the wind, and the Great Pyramid stood tall like a silent guardian of forgotten times. Omar, a young explorer with curious eyes, carried a small scanning device in his hands. He had walked this desert many times, but today felt different. The device gave a faint sound, a steady rhythm that caught his attention. He stopped, looked at the screen, and saw a moving line that showed an unusual signal. Omar had studied old tools before, but this one was modern. He had borrowed it from a university friend to measure magnetic fields near the pyramids. Most days the screen remained blank. But today the device came alive. The signal was weak, hidden under layers of sand, yet it was there. He bent down, adjusted the settings, and looked again. The signal was not random. It repeated like a song, a quiet echo from deep below. Omar's heart beat faster. This was no simple trick of the desert. Something was waiting under the ground. He thought about his friend Lena. She was not an explorer like him, but she had a gift for understanding symbols and old languages. Omar smiled at the thought. If anyone could help him understand this, it would be Lena. He decided to go back and share his discovery. Later that evening, Omar found Lena in the research tent near the site. She was sitting at a wooden table filled with papers and sketches of old carvings. Her dark hair was tied back and her eyes focused on a drawing of a star pattern she had copied from the temple walls. "Lena," Omar said with excitement, "I found something today. My scanner picked up a signal under the sand near the pyramid." Lena looked up with surprise. "A signal? From the ground? Are you sure it was not interference from the device?" Omar shook his head. "I checked many times. It was repeating in a pattern. Not like noise. It sounded like a message." Lena's interest grew. She pushed her papers aside and asked him to show her the device. Omar placed it on the table and explained how the sound had risen from silence. Lena listened carefully. She then thought about the star drawings she had studied. Some of them were strange, not matching the skies above Egypt. They showed groups of stars far from common knowledge. What if the signal matches the old symbols? Lena whispered. The pharaohs built their tombs with secrets. Maybe this is part of it? The idea sent a spark between them. Omar and Lena decided to test it. That night they returned to the pyramid site under the clear desert sky. The stars above glowed brightly, and the air was cool. Omar turned on the scanner once more. The sound returned, steady and rhythmic. Lena looked at her sketches and compared the pattern of sound with the drawings. She noticed something unusual. The signal rose and fell in the same sequence as the star map she had studied earlier. "Omar, look at this," she said while pointing to her sketch. "The pattern is the same as these stars. It is as if the signal is showing us a map hidden below." Omar leaned closer, astonished. "Then what we found is not just a natural signal. It is connected to the old carvings. Maybe the pharaohs knew about this place." The night grew silent as both of them stood in awe of their discovery. The sand around them seemed to whisper, as if holding a secret too big to be spoken aloud. Over the next few days, they worked quietly. Omar used the scanner to map the strength of the signal while Lena compared it to more carvings from the temples. Together they drew lines and circles on paper, slowly revealing the possible location of a hidden chamber. The more they studied, the clearer it became. Something was waiting beneath the pyramid, something untouched by time. Lena often wondered aloud. Why would a signal remain alive for thousands of years? How can it still shine through the sand? Omar could only shake his head. It must have been made with knowledge far beyond what we understand. Perhaps it was not meant to vanish. Perhaps it was meant to be found. Their excitement grew with each passing day. The idea of finding a hidden chamber beneath the oldest wonders of the world felt like a dream. Scholars had studied the pyramids for centuries, but perhaps the greatest secret had remained unseen, waiting for the right moment. One evening, when the desert winds calmed and the horizon glowed with orange light, Omar and Lena sat near the pyramid. The scanner rested between them, its faint sound still alive. Lena looked at the great stones above them and spoke softly. Maybe the pharaohs wanted to leave us more than history. Maybe they wanted to leave us guidance. Omar nodded. And maybe this is only the beginning. The sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted with stars. The signal continued its gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat from the earth itself. Omar and Lena knew they had discovered something that would change not only their lives, but perhaps the story of humankind itself. The desert morning began with golden light spilling over the dunes. Omar and Lena returned to the site with quiet determination. Their notes from the past week showed a clear point where the signal was strongest. It was just beside the base of the pyramid, half hidden by drifting sand. Omar held the scanner while Lena carried rolled-up maps and drawings. The closer they moved to the spot, the stronger the device pulsed. Its steady sound echoed like a heartbeat guiding them forward. Omar looked at Lena with a smile that revealed both nervousness and excitement. "This is the place," he said firmly. They began to clear the sand with small tools. It was slow work, but soon a flat surface appeared. Unlike ordinary stone, this surface was smooth and golden in color. The morning sun reflected off it, making it shine like a mirror. Both of them paused in silence. "This is not normal stone," Lena whispered. She placed her hand carefully on the golden surface. It was warm, as if it carried its own life. Hours passed as they brushed away more sand. Slowly, the surface revealed itself to be a great doorway buried deep under the pyramid's foundation. It had no carvings of pharaohs or gods, only strange patterns that curved and crossed each other like flowing rivers. Lena studied the designs. "These lines look like circuits. They are not like the drawings on temple walls. This feels different, almost as if it belongs to another world." Omar touched one of the patterns. As soon as his fingers met the golden surface, a soft glow spread across the doorway. Light ran along the patterns like streams of water, filling the lines with gentle brightness. Both of them stepped back in shock. The scanner in Omar's hand grew louder, almost singing in response. "Did you see that?" Omar asked with wide eyes. Lena nodded, unable to find the right words. The door continued to glow softly, as if awakened after a long sleep. Then, without a sound, the golden slab began to shift. It opened inward with smooth motion, though no hinges or handles could be seen. Behind the doorway lay a passage that descended into darkness, lit only by faint shimmering along the walls. The air that drifted out was cool and carried a subtle scent like fresh rain. Omar and Lena exchanged a long look. Neither wanted to step away, but both felt the weight of entering something no human had seen for thousands of years. "Do we go inside?" Omar asked quietly. Lena took a deep breath. "We came this far. We cannot stop now." They entered together. The walls around them glowed faintly, enough to guide their steps. As they moved deeper, the sound of the scanner softened until it was no longer needed. The walls themselves hummed with energy, a quiet harmony that filled the space. After walking a short distance, they reached a vast chamber. It was round and tall, larger than any tomb they had seen. The walls were made of the same golden material, polished so smoothly that their reflections looked back at them. The entire chamber glimmered, as though the walls were alive. Omar and Lena stood in the center, turning slowly to take in the sight. There were no statues or coffins, no hieroglyphs telling the story of kings. Instead, the walls carried the same flowing patterns they had seen on the door. When touched, the patterns lit up, spreading gentle waves of light across the surface. "This is no burial place," Omar said softly. "It feels more like a machine." Lena's eyes sparkled with wonder. "Or maybe a library? A library of light." As they explored, they found raised panels along the walls. When Omar pressed one lightly, the golden surface came alive. Shapes floated in the air above the panel, forming glowing images. Stars appeared, arranged in clusters and lines. Lena gasped as she recognized some of them. "These are maps of the sky," she whispered. "But look, Omar. These constellations are not the same as the ones above us today. Some belong to times long past. Others look like they are from skies beyond Earth." The stars shifted, creating new patterns. A shining point marked Earth among many glowing worlds. Lines stretched from it toward distant places across the sky. The message was clear. Whoever built this chamber had knowledge far beyond what the pharaohs could have known. Omar's mind raced. The pyramids must have been built as markers to protect this chamber. The pharaohs may have been guardians of something greater than themselves. Lena touched another panel. The stars faded, replaced by symbols of unknown language. Yet the symbols slowly rearranged, becoming clearer as if learning to speak with them. One word appeared in glowing letters they could read: "Welcome." A chill passed over both of them, not from fear but from the overwhelming sense of standing at the doorway of something far larger than human history. Omar looked at Lena. "This is not the end of our search. This is only the beginning." The golden chamber hummed gently, as if it agreed. The walls glowed brighter for a moment, filling the room with warm light. Omar and Lena felt as though the chamber itself was alive and aware of their presence. They did not yet know what secrets lay deeper within, but one truth was clear. They had uncovered a mystery that would change the way humanity looked at its past and its future. The doorway behind them remained open, waiting. The desert outside continued in silence, unaware that the greatest secret of the pharaohs had just been revealed. The golden chamber stood silent around Omar and Lena, its walls glowing faintly like the horizon at dawn. They felt as if they were standing inside the heart of a star, surrounded by patterns of light that shifted gently across the smooth golden surface. Every step echoed softly, reminding them that they were the first in many centuries to stand in this place. Omar walked to one of the raised panels and pressed his hand lightly against it. The wall lit up, and the air above shimmered. A floating map appeared, filled with tiny golden points that shone like stars. The chamber became a universe of light. Lena's eyes widened as she reached out, her hand passing through the glowing shapes as though touching air. "These are not just decorations," Lena whispered. "They are maps of the sky. Look, here is Orion, and here is the North Star. But these others are unfamiliar." Omar stepped closer. "They look like constellations from long ago. Some of these stars are no longer seen in our night sky. Maybe this is showing us the sky as it once was." The map shifted on its own, changing patterns, rotating smoothly like a sphere. Then one glowing point grew brighter than the others. A thin golden line stretched from it to a cluster of other stars. Lena leaned forward, her heart racing. "That is Earth," she said softly. "And these lines show connections to other worlds." Omar stared in amazement. The map was not only about Earth. It was about the universe and Earth's place within it. The golden lines looked like paths, routes between the stars. He thought of the old carvings on the temple walls, how some showed figures pointing to the sky. Perhaps those carvings were not only symbols of worship but signs of knowledge passed down. Lena turned slowly, her voice filled with awe. This means the builders of this chamber understood space travel. They knew of other worlds beyond ours. Omar nodded. It also means the pharaohs were not only rulers of land. They were protectors of this secret. Another panel glowed as if inviting them to explore further. Lena touched it carefully. The star map faded, replaced by a series of symbols glowing across the wall. The shapes looked strange at first, but slowly, before their eyes, the lines began to rearrange. Some symbols reshaped into familiar letters. A message appeared, glowing gently in the air. We came to guide. We never came to rule. The words hovered before them, simple yet powerful. Lena whispered the sentence again, letting it sink in. To guide, not to rule. Whoever left this behind wanted to share knowledge, not to control humanity. Omar felt a shiver. Maybe that is why the pharaohs built such great monuments. Not only to honor their lives but to guard this chamber, to protect its message until the right time. The chamber seemed to react to their understanding. The walls glowed brighter, and the air hummed with a deeper note, almost like music. Omar and Lena stood together, feeling as though they were being acknowledged. They continued exploring. At one side of the chamber, they found another panel with moving lights. When touched, it projected flowing images. These images were not of stars but of rivers, mountains, and deserts. Maps of Earth appeared, but not as they knew them. Some showed Egypt covered in lush green land. Others revealed coastlines different from today. These are maps of Earth through time, Lena realized. The chamber has recorded history across ages. It remembers more than we can imagine. Omar's mind spun with thoughts. If this chamber carries knowledge of the stars and of Earth, then it holds the story of both heaven and home. It is like a bridge between worlds. They sat down on the smooth golden floor to rest, yet the glowing walls continued to shift around them. The chamber seemed endless in its wisdom. Omar thought of the signal that had first led him here. It was as if the chamber had been waiting, reaching out through the sands, calling for someone to listen. Lena spoke gently. The pharaohs may have understood that their power was small compared to the universe. Perhaps they wanted their people to remember that humans are part of something greater. Omar nodded, looking again at the shining maps above them. And perhaps now it is our turn to carry that memory forward. The chamber slowly dimmed, leaving only soft light along the edges. It was almost as if it knew they needed time to reflect. Omar and Lena sat in silence, letting the weight of their discovery settle within them. The golden chamber was not just a room under the pyramid. It was a message, a library, and a promise left for the future. When they finally stood to leave, the maps faded back into the walls. The chamber returned to quiet stillness, waiting once again. Omar touched the golden surface before stepping away. He felt warmth under his hand, as though the chamber was alive and listening. As they walked back through the passage, the faint hum followed them until they reached the doorway that opened to the desert. The bright sun greeted them, and the sand stretched endlessly as if nothing unusual lay beneath. But Omar and Lena now carried the knowledge of the stars within their hearts. They looked at each other with silent agreement. What they had found was far greater than either had expected. The golden chamber had shown them that humanity's story was tied not only to Earth but to the endless skies beyond. The desert night was calm, and the stars above glowed brightly as Omar and Lena returned to the chamber. Their steps were steady, though their hearts beat with curiosity and wonder. They had seen maps of earth and skies unknown, and words that welcomed them. Yet they both felt the chamber had more to reveal. When they entered again, the golden walls lit gently, as though recognizing their return. The air hummed with the same soft music they had felt before. Omar placed his hand on a panel, and at once the chamber awakened. The floor shimmered with light, and in the center, a circle of brightness rose like mist. The mist slowly shaped itself into a figure of pure light. It was not human, nor was it strange enough to cause fear. It looked more like a moving flame, tall and calm, shifting with warm colors. The figure spoke, not in words at first but in tones, rising and falling like a song. Omar and Lena listened closely. The sound filled the chamber, gentle and soothing. Then, as if learning from their minds, the tones began to form words. Slowly, the voice spoke in clear language. "We greet you. You are not the first to enter this place, but you are the first in many ages to listen." Omar and Lena exchanged a look of amazement. The voice was calm, filled with kindness. Lena stepped forward slightly, her voice soft. "Who are you?" The figure of light pulsed gently before answering. "We are travelers. Long ago, we crossed the skies. We came not to rule your people, but to guide them. We shared seeds of knowledge, small pieces that would grow with time. This chamber was left as a gift, a bridge between your world and the stars." The words echoed in the chamber, and Omar felt his breath catch. The carvings, the pyramids, the maps, they were all part of this gift. "Why here?" Omar asked quietly. "Why among the pharaohs of Egypt?" The figure glowed brighter for a moment. "Your ancestors were seekers of the sky. They built with stone to honor eternity. Their spirit of wonder made them guardians of this place. They agreed to protect what we left, so that one day, when your people were ready, it could be found." Lena placed her hand on her chest, her heart full. "And are we ready now?" The voice grew softer, like a breeze through leaves. "That is for you to decide. The chamber cannot judge. It only shows paths. Knowledge must be chosen, not forced. If humankind walks with wisdom, the stars will welcome you. If humankind forgets, the chamber will sleep again." Omar and Lena listened in silence. Every word felt like a message written for their time. Omar thought of the signal, how it had called to him. Perhaps the chamber had awakened because humankind was nearing a new age. The figure of light raised its hands, and the chamber walls changed once more. Golden maps appeared again, but this time they were alive with movement. Small points of light traveled along glowing lines, showing journeys between stars. Some stopped at Earth, while others passed far beyond. Lena watched with wonder. "These are records of travelers," the voice explained. "We visited many worlds, sharing knowledge of peace and growth. We left seeds of memory, so that in time, each world could rise on its own." The maps faded, replaced by glowing images of humans building great monuments, farming lands, and studying the stars. Omar and Lena recognized the scenes, yet they were shown in a new light. They saw humanity not as small, but as part of a greater story. The voice spoke again. "Do not fear the vastness of the skies. You are not alone. Others have walked this path before you. Your people will walk it too." Omar stepped forward, his voice steady. "If this knowledge is meant for us, how do we use it? How can we carry it without losing who we are?" The figure shimmered, its form like a flame swaying gently. Begin by remembering. Honor your world, your people, your history. Knowledge of the stars must not replace wisdom of the heart. The chamber holds lessons, not commands. Its purpose is to remind you that you belong to something greater. The words sank deep into their hearts. Lena closed her eyes, imagining a future where humans traveled the skies guided not by greed but by curiosity and kindness. She opened her eyes and whispered, "This is a message of hope." The figure of light bowed its head. "Hope is the greatest gift. Carry it well." With that, the light began to fade. The maps dimmed, the voice grew quiet, and the chamber returned to its soft golden glow. Omar and Lena stood still, reluctant to move, afraid the vision might vanish if they stepped away. After a long silence, Omar finally spoke. "Lena, we are part of something so much larger." The pyramids were not only monuments of stone. They were guardians of a promise. Lena nodded, her eyes shining. "And we are the ones who have uncovered it? The question now is, what will we do with it?" They walked slowly toward the doorway, the golden walls humming gently behind them. The desert night greeted them once more, the stars above bright and endless. Omar looked up, feeling different than before. The sky no longer seemed far away. It felt close, almost within reach. The chamber had spoken. The message was clear. Humanity was not alone, and its journey had only just begun. The morning sun rose over the desert as Omar and Lena returned once more to the golden chamber. The words of the glowing figure remained in their minds. The chamber was not a tomb, not a treasure, but a gift meant to guide humanity. Yet both of them felt there was still more to uncover. The chamber had spoken of lessons, and they knew they had only seen the beginning. When they entered, the golden walls brightened, welcoming them. This time, however, the glow spread across the floor as well. A wide circle of light appeared in the center of the chamber, and soft tones filled the air, rising and falling like gentle music. Omar and Lena looked at each other, their hearts quick with wonder. "It feels as if the chamber is asking us to step forward," Omar said quietly. Lena nodded. "Maybe it wants to test if we truly understand." They stepped into the circle together. At once, the chamber shifted. The walls dissolved into patterns of light, and the floor beneath them seemed to fade into endless space. It felt as though they were standing in the middle of the universe. Stars glimmered around them, and lines of golden light stretched from one to another. A voice, softer than before, spoke from all directions. "Knowledge is a path. To walk it, you must learn not only to see, but to understand." The stars around them began to move, rearranging into shapes. Some formed simple constellations, while others created puzzles of light. One cluster glowed brighter than the rest. Lena watched closely and noticed that if the stars were connected in the right order, they formed a symbol she had seen in ancient carvings. "It wants us to trace the path," Lena said. She lifted her hand and, with gentle motion, drew lines in the air. Each line connected one glowing point to another. As she finished, the symbol completed itself, and the stars shone brightly in response. The voice spoke again. "Patience brings clarity." The stars shifted once more. This time they formed a pattern that seemed broken, with several points missing. Omar frowned, trying to make sense of it. He remembered the maps they had seen earlier, showing Earth and other worlds connected by golden lines. "Lena, I think it wants us to restore the path," Omar said. Together they studied the points. After a moment, Omar reached out and connected the stars in a new order, forming a smooth line. The pattern glowed, and the missing parts filled themselves with light. Wisdom restores balance, the voice said gently. The chamber around them changed again. Now the stars faded, and they stood in front of moving shapes of light. 3 doors appeared, each glowing with different colors. One was bright gold, another soft blue, and the third a deep green. Each seemed to call to them in a different way. Lena looked thoughtful. Maybe it is asking us to choose. But how do we know which one is right? Omar took a deep breath. Perhaps none are wrong. The choice itself may be the lesson. They held hands and stepped toward the golden door. As they passed through, the chamber did not resist. Instead, the light around them shifted into flowing rivers and growing fields. They saw visions of people working together, building homes, planting seeds, and studying the skies. The images carried no words, only feelings of harmony. The voice returned. Cooperation brings growth. The vision faded, and the golden chamber returned around them. Omar and Lena looked at each other, their hearts filled with calm. The trial had not been about strength or power. It had been about patience, wisdom, choice, and cooperation. The chamber was teaching them values as much as knowledge. Lena whispered softly, "It is training us, step by step. Not to control the stars, but to walk among them with care." Omar nodded. And maybe that is why it remained hidden for so long. Humanity had to reach a moment where it could understand these lessons. The chamber glowed warmly, as if agreeing with their thoughts. A new panel opened in the wall, revealing a small pathway leading deeper into the structure. The air shimmered with golden light, inviting them onward. They walked carefully, each step filled with quiet respect. The passage was lined with more flowing patterns, glowing gently like rivers of fireflies. At the end stood another room, smaller but brighter than the first. In the center hovered a pedestal of light, and above it floated a crystal object, clear and shining like water frozen in air. Lena's eyes widened. "It looks alive." Omar stepped closer, his voice low. "This must be what the chamber has been leading us to." The crystal glowed softly, turning as if aware of their presence. The chamber around them hummed, filling the space with calm energy. Omar and Lena knew they had reached the heart of the mystery. The trial of understanding was complete. What came next would reveal the true gift of the Pharaohs. The small chamber glowed with a steady golden light. At its center floated the crystal object, turning gently above the pedestal. It was clear like glass but shimmered with colors that shifted slowly, like sunlight passing through water. Omar and Lena stood at the edge, their hearts filled with wonder. The air felt calm and alive. The humming sound was soft, almost like a whisper. Omar stepped closer, his hand half raised but unsure if he should touch it. Lena placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Wait," she said gently. "Let us listen first. The chamber always shows us the way when we are patient." Omar nodded. They stood in silence, watching the crystal. Slowly, light spread from it, forming glowing shapes in the air. Images unfolded like a story. They saw pyramids rising from the desert, built not only as tombs but as markers of a great secret. They saw the pharaohs walking among their people, guiding them not just with power but with knowledge passed down from the travelers. Then the images shifted. The crystal revealed visions of stars, planets, and journeys across the skies. Human figures were shown looking upward, carrying tools of learning and symbols of unity. The meaning was clear. This was not only about the past but about the future. Lena whispered softly, "It is showing us that the pharaohs were guardians. They kept this secret safe so that one day humanity could remember its greater path." The voice of the chamber returned, gentle and calm. This is the memory stone. It carries thoughts, knowledge, and guidance from those who came before. It is not a weapon, not a treasure of gold, but a gift of wisdom. Whoever carries it will hold a part of the stars within. Omar's eyes shone as he looked at the crystal. A memory stone, he repeated. That is why the signal never died. It was calling, waiting for someone to find it. The crystal descended slightly, hovering just above Omar's reach. Lena stepped back, her face glowing with quiet respect. I think it has chosen you, she said softly. Omar took a deep breath and reached out. His hand touched the crystal, and in that moment, light flowed through him. He felt warmth spread across his chest and mind. His thoughts filled with images, not of words but of feelings: patience, harmony, curiosity, and hope. He saw visions of humans working together, exploring the stars not in conquest but in learning and peace. Lena watched as the light wrapped around Omar, then slowly dimmed. The crystal rested in his hands, light still pulsing gently from within. Omar opened his eyes, and they were filled with wonder. I can feel it, he said softly. It is like holding the memory of ages. Not heavy, but full of meaning. Lena smiled with gentle pride. Then we must carry it wisely. This is not for us alone. It is for all humanity. The chamber hummed once more, as if agreeing with her. On the walls, glowing lines formed a final message. Guard this gift. Share it with care. Let it guide, not rule. The words faded, and the golden light softened. The chamber seemed to grow quiet, as though its purpose had been fulfilled. Omar and Lena stood in silence, aware that they had reached the heart of the mystery. They walked slowly back through the glowing passage, Omar holding the crystal close. The hum of the chamber followed them until they reached the outer door. Once they stepped into the desert sunlight, the doorway behind them began to change. The golden patterns dimmed, and the smooth surface shifted back into stone. In a moment, the entrance had vanished, blending perfectly with the pyramid's base. Lena looked back, her voice low. It has hidden itself again. As if it wants to sleep until it is needed once more. Omar held the crystal in his hands. Its light was faint now, but steady, as though it carried a quiet heartbeat. He looked at Lena with determination. Then the memory stone is our responsibility. We must learn from it, protect it, and share its wisdom when the time is right. They walked together across the desert sands, the pyramid rising tall behind them. The wind carried grains of sand across their path, erasing their footprints as if to protect the secret they carried. Yet Omar and Lena knew the truth could not be buried again. The memory stone was more than an artifact. It was a promise. That evening, as the stars filled the night sky, Omar and Lena sat quietly with the crystal between them. Its light glowed softly, matching the rhythm of the stars above. Lena lifted her gaze to the heavens. The pharaohs built their monuments to remind us of eternity. But the true eternity lies out there, among the stars. Omar nodded. And now, we hold a piece of it. The night stretched wide and endless, but for the first time, it did not feel distant. With the memory stone, humanity had a bridge to the wisdom of the past and the promise of the future. Omar and Lena understood that their discovery was not an end but the beginning of a new journey. The desert was quiet as Omar and Lena made their way back from the pyramid. The sun had dipped low, painting the sand in warm colors. Between them, the memory stone pulsed softly, its golden light steady and calm. It felt alive, but gentle, as if it was aware of its new guardians. They walked without speaking, each lost in thought. The discovery of the chamber, the maps of the stars, and the visions of travelers had changed everything they had known. Omar glanced at Lena, seeing the same wonder mirrored in her eyes. "It feels unreal," Omar said finally. "Everything we saw, everything we learned, it is more than any of us could have imagined." Lena nodded. "And yet it is real. The chamber, the crystal, the messages, they are all here. Waiting for the right moment to be found." The wind shifted, carrying fine grains of sand over their footprints, erasing their path behind them. Omar looked back at the pyramid, its towering form calm and silent in the fading light. It seemed smaller now, yet somehow even greater. The stone walls that had guarded the chamber for thousands of years had hidden not only secrets but wisdom meant for the future. Omar held the memory stone carefully. Its warmth reached through his fingers, filling him with thoughts and visions from ages past. The travelers, the pharaohs, the stars, they were all connected. The knowledge of the universe was not meant to frighten or control, but to guide. "Do you think anyone will believe us?" Lena asked quietly. "The world might think this is impossible." Omar smiled. "They may. But it does not matter. The truth is not always about being believed. It is about understanding. We have seen it, we have felt it, and now it is our responsibility." They walked until the desert stretched endlessly around them, and the first stars began to appear. Lena looked up, tracing the constellations she had seen in the chamber. Some were familiar, others were new, yet all were beautiful. "The stars look different now," she said. "It is as if the chamber has changed how we see the sky." Omar nodded. "It is not the sky that changed. We have changed. We understand that humans are part of something much greater than themselves." As night fell, they set up a small camp, the memory stone resting safely between them. The crystal glowed softly, filling the space with calm light. Omar and Lena spoke quietly about what they had learned. The lessons were clear: patience, wisdom, cooperation, and respect for knowledge. They also understood that knowledge alone was not enough, it had to be used with care and thoughtfulness. "Do you think the chamber will ever open again?" Lena asked, watching the stars reflect in the crystal. Omar thought for a moment. "Perhaps. But only when it is needed. The chamber is not just a place. It is a guide. It appears when the world is ready." The desert night was filled with quiet energy. The memory stone pulsed like a heartbeat, and Omar felt a connection to something timeless. The stars above seemed closer now, not distant points of light but part of a great network. Humanity had only begun to understand its place in the universe, and the chamber had given them a bridge to that understanding. Lena smiled and reached for Omar's hand. "We are not alone, Omar. Not in the universe and not in our journey. The pharaohs, the travelers, even the people who built the pyramids, they all left something for us." Omar squeezed her hand. "And now it is our turn. We carry the gift forward, not for glory, but for everyone. One day, humans will travel the stars, guided by what we have learned." They sat in silence, letting the calm of the desert fill them. The memory stone pulsed softly, a constant reminder of their mission. Omar and Lena understood that the golden chamber had given them more than knowledge, it had given them purpose. As the night deepened, they finally lay back on the sand, gazing at the endless sky. The stars shimmered above, and for the first time, they felt a quiet certainty. Humanity was not alone. It had once been guided by travelers from beyond the stars, and one day, it would walk among them. The golden chamber, the pyramids, and the crystal were symbols of hope, patience, and wisdom, waiting to inspire future generations. Omar closed his eyes, feeling the pulse of the memory stone. Lena did the same. In the quiet of the desert, under the infinite sky, they knew the greatest discovery was not a treasure of gold or jewels, but the knowledge that humans were capable of understanding, learning, and rising to meet the universe. The golden chamber had spoken, and now its message lived in Omar and Lena. Humanity's story had a new chapter, one of connection, curiosity, and endless possibilities. The mysteries of the past had been unearthed, and the promise of the stars awaited. The desert remained silent, but the night sky shone brighter than ever, as if welcoming the beginning of a journey that had only just begun.